Back in January, when some private organizations and companies announced that they were following the lead of the federal government and rolling back diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation programs, some of them going as far as to dismantle entire divisions set up for diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation, I knew it was only going to be a matter of time before we started to see funding, specifically venture capitalist funding, start to be pulled away from small-owned businesses, specifically minority-owned businesses who rely on that funding the most, yet are the least likely to receive it. And the natural fallout was inevitably we would start to see small-owned businesses struggle, minority-owned businesses, and some of them shut their doors permanently. And fast forward 6 months later, that is exactly what has happened with Ami Colé. Ami Colé is a Black-owned beauty brand founded by Diarrha, who is a first-generation Senegalese American. And I want to talk about it because not only is this going to have implications for other small-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses, I want to look at it from the lens of being a Black-owned beauty brand in a space where we have had to fight so hard for inclusion and to be represented. And I'm genuinely concerned about the ways we are backsliding, but also how some people, how they have reacted, not all, some, but the conversation that is happening on social media, specifically on TikTok, and how some Black women have reacted to the news of Ami Colé closing. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel if you are new here. Welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today I want to talk about how we have been seeing the impacts of these diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation programs that have been scaled back, the limited funding that these businesses receive already that's going to be further eroded, and more specifically, Ami Colé. Now, before we get into the video, I am wearing Ami Colé. The lip color I have on is the lip oil, and then I'm wearing the foundation stick. Unfortunately, they are closing, so if you head to their website, please shop directly from their website if you can. I know some of us, Sephora is a lot easier because they are in Sephora. However, with her business closing, if you can shop directly from Ami Colé, I'm sure she would appreciate it. If you've never heard of Ami Colé, and that's a problem, which I will talk about later in the video, Ami Colé was founded by Diarrha N'Diaye in 2021. I have seen some pronunciations of her name as Diarrha, but I'm going to just call her Diarrha because that's how I've seen she herself pronounce it and other people pronounce it. But if I got it wrong, I apologize. I mean no disrespect. As a first-generation Nigerian American, names are super important, and I always do my best to get people's names right. But Diarrha, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Y'all, if I pronounce it incorrectly, please correct me in the comments. But like I said, I have seen her pronounce it Diarrha, so that's how I'm saying it. But anyways, Ami Colé was founded by Diarrha in 2021. And if you backtrack, rewind to what was happening in 2021, there was a lot of unrest with the George Floyd murder and people calling out racism, prejudice, lack of diversity, lack of inclusion, lack of equity, all the ways in which we are still a heavily white supremacist society, and how that inequality, how that inequity, how that lack of diversity shows up and impacts people of color, but especially Black people in America. And we saw a lot of companies really make a lot of pledges and initiatives to be more diverse, to be equitable, to be more representative, not only in their marketing, but in their leadership structures. A lot of companies and organizations pledged millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And I did a video about this a few months ago, so I will drop that video in the comments and in the description. But fast forward to today, a lot of that money, a lot of these pledges cannot be accounted for. And there's no way to really tangibly measure how much of that money was donated and what it was used for. But because there was so much energy around that time and a lot of funding around that time, a lot of people were more committed to and invested in representation, diversity, equity, and we saw a lot of Black-owned businesses, small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses launch, take off, receive a lot of acclaim, get a lot of attention, be given a lot of funding. 2021 was such a unique time period for this to happen because we were all at home. Everything was closed down. COVID was running rampant. People were working from home. or people were leaning heavily into social media, more specifically TikTok, and launching their careers, launching their own businesses. And we saw this wave of energy and creativity and a lot of brands being more attentive, being more responsive to the cries of diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation in their foundations, in their makeup offerings. I especially saw this really take off in the beauty industry. And around that time, I found a lot of new brands, not just Colé, but especially Danessa Myricks. Danessa Myricks, like Colé, provided alternatives, and not even just alternatives, but provided not only groundbreaking products, but really moved the needle in a diversity of different shades for people of different skin tones, and not just super dark-skinned women, but fairer-skinned women, and not just fairer-skinned women or very dark-skinned women, but different products, innovative products that would work for different skin types. And so we saw a lot of this creativity in the beauty space, and a lot of new brands emerge. However, fast forward just a few short years, as soon as people decided COVID was over, we see a lot of these brands start to walk back the promises that they made, the pledges that they made, both financial and in representing and being inclusive of smaller owned businesses, minority owned businesses. And the death knell pretty much came at the beginning of this year with this new change in administration, when the Trump administration announced that they were completely getting rid of anything that could even remotely resemble diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation. It was almost like a sigh of relief from the industry as a whole, not just public organizations in the government space, the federal, state, and local spaces. It seemed as if a lot of brands were like, oh, finally, we can stop pretending. You know, now that we got all this money from Black people and people of color, we can now stop pretending and go back to just centering whiteness and white beauty standards. And I talked about this a little briefly, but Black-owned businesses, small-owned businesses, Black women-owned businesses receive the least amount of venture capitalist funding to start these businesses. Less than 1% of this funding goes to Black women. And it is not because there is a lack of creativity or Black women starting small-owned businesses. It is because of the lack of diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation. It is a result of stereotyping and discrimination and prejudice that routinely deny Black women these opportunities to receive access to funding. And so when I started to see earlier this year, a lot of people excitedly and eagerly sweeping and doing away with their DEI initiatives and programs and entire divisions, I knew it was only going to be a matter of time before we started to see it impact Black-owned businesses, but more specifically, Black woman-owned businesses. And I'm not surprised that it is happening in the beauty space. Diarrha recently wrote an article for The Cut talking about her decision behind closing the brand, and I'll link that in the comments below as well in the description. I highly encourage you to read it. But she talks about this new energy that she was receiving, people excited to give her funding, but the immediate hit, this change in administration, the impact that it had on her almost immediately, and the struggles of being a small-owned business. In the article, she talks about the impending and disastrous effects, the negative impacts of these impending tariffs, and the impact it will have not just on her business, not just in the beauty space and not just beauty brands, but on industries, small-owned businesses as a whole across the country. She specifically says, instead of focusing on the healthy, sustainable future of the company and meeting the needs of our loyal fan base, I rode a temperamental wave of appraising investors, some of whom seem to have an attitude towards equity and betting big on inclusivity that changed its tune a lot to my ears from what it sounded like in 2020. And we see this happening time and time and time again. People will take advantage of, or people will talk a good game about anything that makes them look good as far as marketing goes, talking about how we're muted and listening, using basically Black bodies and brown bodies and people of color to boost their bottom line under the guise of pretending to care about inclusivity. But as soon as that's not important to them, or it's not what's popular, it goes by the wayside, because this was never a part of their values as an organization. Diarrha talks about in the article, she had no coaches, no family money, just Instagram comments and her own momentum. Nowadays, when it comes to marketing your company, you have to be on social media, but because so many algorithms are very prejudiced and racist towards not just Black-owned businesses, but Black women, specifically dark-skinned Black women, it is very hard to see Black women, Black brands, Black businesses represented on TikTok and social media as a whole. And she talks about how, you know, she rode this wave of influencers or celebrities hyping up her brand to bring awareness to the brand. However, that hype can only last for so long as you are fighting for so much space and visibility in an algorithm that does not favor your target demographic. The byline of her article in The Cut was, "My beauty brand offered Black women shades they couldn't find elsewhere. Why wasn't that enough?" That really resonated with me as a dark-skinned Black woman because I didn't start wearing makeup until 2017. And you want to know what happened in 2017? Rihanna launched Fenty, and that was so groundbreaking when it happened. The launch of Fenty was just beyond anything we've ever seen in the beauty space because of how inclusive it was. The first time on the first launch, she got it right. With Fenty, that was the first time I could actually go into a store and find a shade that worked for me, out of the bottle, not having to mix another product, not having to buy something else, mix it somewhere else, and then still have myself looking ashy or whatever. Like, Fenty was so groundbreaking, and that was the case for so many dark-skinned Black women. A lot of us came into makeup and beauty with Fenty because we could finally find our shade. And the reason why I say it was dynamic and just amazing that she got it right the first time around, because more often than not, there are so many brands that get it wrong the first time around, the second time around. And when you finally see your shade, it's a second launch, it's a third launch, or it's an expansion line. You were not the first thought. You were not the primary demographic. You were an afterthought. And so many of these brands make it clear. With Fenty, that was different. And I think Fenty completely changed the beauty industry because it forced other brands to answer as to why, especially these legacy beauty brands. It forced the question of, why can't you get it right? It was never a matter of ability to get it right, to include darker skinned Black women in their formulations and in their products. It was an unwillingness, and Fenty called that unwillingness to the carpet in a way that other beauty brands had to answer for and had to keep up for. And when you look now at the new brands that have launched since then, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are more inclusive. And I think we owe a lot of that to Rihanna and Fenty. So when Diarrha says in the article, "My beauty brand offered Black women shades they couldn't find elsewhere, why wasn't that enough?" That really resonates with me because Black women, we are so often, when it comes to our beauty, when it comes to us being centered, we are so often an afterthought in so many industries, but especially the beauty industry. When the article came out in The Cut and when people started talking about it on social media, there were so many comments I saw of people saying, "Oh, I didn't know. I've never heard of the brand. I never knew she was closing." And one of my favorite influencers, from Any Given Sunday, she posted a really good video. And I want to post it in this video because her video really resonated with me because it encapsulated my thoughts perfectly that there are two things happening here. Yes, Black-owned businesses are not getting enough shine, representation, and space in the algorithm, but it is also true that a lot of people, including Black people, do not value Black-owned businesses and do not seek out or support Black-owned businesses. And in a time now more than ever in our society, we are more connected. That information is available at our fingertips. If you do not know something, it is a reflection of the fact that this thing is just not interesting to you, or it is not important enough for you to know. Ignorance is no excuse. In 2025, I didn't know is no longer a viable excuse. We are all seeking out what is important to us. And if you didn't know this brand existed, if you don't know about the existence of Black-owned brands, Black-owned beauty brands, and you are someone who is into beauty, who is into makeup, who is into the beauty and lifestyle space and industry, if that is something that is interesting to you, listen to the caveat that I'm saying. Because I saw in Annie's video in the comment section, a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, I care about Black-owned businesses. I just didn't know it existed. And maybe she needs to do better with her marketing and blah, 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 blah." If you are not someone who is interested in beauty or makeup, then this is not for you. And her video was not for you, in the sense that If Black owned businesses or beauty is something that is important to you, you will know about the existence of this brand. Ignorance is no excuse. So let's watch Annie's video, and then I'm gonna come back with the rest of my commentary.
Hey, so I might ruffle some feathers with this one, but I'm totally fine with that. Yesterday, we learned about Colé closing down, and although I made a video that touched on it, that video was always going to be filmed. Like, I had always planned on filming a review of their new shades of their lip treatment oil. It just so happened that I had filmed it right at the time that they announced that they were closing, and so I touched on it. But like, I've had some thoughts, and I've had a lot of thoughts, but I'm only gonna focus on one particular track of thoughts. I'm gonna name that, like, I'm feeling a lot of feelings. I'm frustrated, a little like upset, a little disappointed. Like, I've never actually been this impacted by like losing a product and losing a brand in my entire life before. And so this is like, these thoughts are potentially coming from a place of like a little bit of hurt, and it might sound accusatory, but like, I just want to name that. Some of the comments and some of the conversation that I have seen has been from people, and I will say a lot of Black women, or a lot of people who appear to be Black women, saying that they had never heard of the brand before, or that the first time that they are hearing about this brand is when it's closing. And I want to say that to the extent that a statement or comment like that is meant to be an indictment on the system, the brand, influencers, consumers, then forces that be, right? Like, I want to challenge that. But before I even go any further, I want to be very clear that I am not putting blame on the closure of this brand on anyone. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying this is the reason that it's closed or that's the reason, even though the article mentioned the reasons from the founder's perspective. I'm not talking about the reason that it's closing. I'm not saying that certain consumers or influencers are the reason that I want to be very clear, because I know a lot of times we tend to lose the plot and get outside of a specific issue. The specific issue that I'm focusing on, that I'm narrowing in on, is one about knowledge of the existence of this brand and other Black owned brands. That is what I'm speaking to. Anything else is outside the realm of what I'm trying to speak to right now. So to that, I say this. I believe that people gain knowledge about the things that they care about. I believe that people gain awareness about the things that are important to them. Not only do they gain it, they seek it. The existence and success of Black owned businesses is important to me. It is important to me. I care about it. I do not exclusively patronize Black owned businesses and brands. I'm not there yet. I'm not the person with the Black owned toilet paper and the Black owned couch and the Black owned toiletry purse and the Black owned spoons and knives and forks. That's not me. That's not where I am. However, I know that they exist. I can't necessarily name them for you, because I'm going to be frank, having Black owned toilet paper is not that important to me. I'm going to say that. But I know that they exist. And if it was important to me, I would be able to name a brand or tell you that sort of thing. What is important to me are the makeup products that I use, the fragrances that I wear, the clothes that I wear, the shoes that I put on my feet, the products that I put in my hair, the personal care products that I use every day. And because those things are important to me and the success of Black owned businesses are important to me, to the best of my ability, I at least make myself aware of the existence of Black owned businesses in those categories. Again, it does not mean I use Black owned products in those categories exclusively. And it also does not mean I patronize every Black owned business in those categories. But what it means is that I am aware of very many Black owned businesses that exist in those spaces. So much so that it would be unlikely for you to name a brand, specifically a brand at Sephora that is Black owned, or a brand at Ulta that is Black owned, that I am not aware of, that I have not heard of. It would be so unlikely that a 4-year-old beauty brand that is sold at Sephora is a brand that I have not heard of, or is a brand that I will not hear of until it closes. That is just, that doesn't make sense for me as someone who cares about the makeup space and the success of Black owned businesses. Again, it does not mean that I have put money behind my care. It just means that I have awareness. Knowledge awareness is free. And the reason it would be hard for me to not have that awareness is because, as someone who frequently shops at Sephora, I know that there is a tab that says Black owned brands. And when you click on it, it has for you all of the Black owned brands that are available at Sephora, including Colé. Like, I know what Black owned brands are sold at Sephora, even if I haven't actually bought anything from them. The same is true for Ulta, which has the same tab. The same is true for a clothing site in a different category, Shopbop, that has Black led brands. The same is true for a site like Moda Apparandi that also has a tab for Black owned brands. Mind you, I don't even know how long these tabs are going to exist for, because in this day and age we live in, yeah. Again, this is for the comments like, I did not know this brand existed, or the questions of, tell me the Black owned businesses, tell me the Black owned businesses I want to support, tell me which ones to support. Again, you pursue knowledge about the things that you care about. Actively, not passively. For example, just a couple of weeks ago, I had the thought to myself, because I've been building my jewelry collection and taking people along for the ride and sharing for it. I'm like, great, you got the diamonds, you got the gold. Who are the Black owned people? Who are the Black people in this space? Like, what are the black jewelry designers? What are the black fine jewelry designers? Who are they? Like, I want to know. I got some answers. I even got a piece, this one right here from Bernard James. And I have knowledge of even more designers that I haven't bought from now or yet, simply because I care. So perhaps you don't care about makeup. That's fair. You don't care about makeup. So it would not surprise me that you do not know about a 4-year-old makeup brand that is sold in Sephora, because you don't care about makeup in general like that. So that makes sense. That checks out. But if you do exist in the makeup space, if you do care about makeup, if this is something that you regularly engage with, again, I am not speaking to why or why not you have purchased. I'm not speaking to the reasons that someone might purchase. I'm not speaking to the price point. I'm not speaking to accessibility. I'm not speaking to distribution. I'm just speaking to knowledge. I really do just seek to challenge people to think about how much they really do care. Because again, I believe that you gain knowledge and awareness about the things that you care about the things that are important to you.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate Annie? Because like I said, she is literally one of my just favorite people on the internet. I could listen to her talk forever. And someday I would love to meet her and just have a conversation, because there are so many things I feel like we have in common outside of us both being first generation Nigerian Americans. I just like the things she talks about, and the way she speaks scratches my brain just right. I could listen to her talk forever. But anyways, what I really liked about her video is it puts the onus on us to know. Just like I said, ignorance is no excuse. And unfortunately, a lot of our algorithms are very racist and prejudiced. So they're going to push whiteness to the forefront. They're going to push non-blackness to the forefront. And as a black woman, I know that unfortunately, when I type in something into TikTok, which is a search engine, that's how a lot of people are using TikTok, as a search engine. So your algorithm is finely tuned to what you are seeking. Legit, our algorithm works in the sense that what you are seeking is seeking you. It will feed back to you your interests and the things that are important to you. So if you are somebody who is interested in makeup, skincare, and beauty, and you do not know the existence of Ami Colé, it is because you are not seeking out small businesses, women-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, specifically Black women-owned businesses, small businesses. If you are not seeking these out, you are not going to find them. And yes, it would be great if we lived in the world that should be, but unfortunately, we live in the world that is. And so when I put anything into TikTok, if I'm looking for a brand, if I'm looking for a shade, if I'm looking for whatever, I know that I have to put in Ami Colé Poise. That's the name of the lip color, the lip oil that I'm wearing. PS, Ami Colé Poise. But anyways, I know if I want to see it on someone who looks like me, I have to go in and I have to put Ami Colé Poise lip oil Black girl. And that's when I will start to see myself reflected. But if I was to simply put in Ami Colé Poise, I would very likely not see myself reflected, or I would have to scroll down very long. Now, I don't think that would specifically happen with Ami Colé because she is a Black woman-owned brand. And so it's a lot of Black women who are swatching and talking about her makeup. So I would very likely see it. But if I was to put in, I don't know, Summer Fridays, mint green, Summer Fridays lip balm, Road Beauty lip balm, I would have to scroll for a very long time to see myself represented. And so something that I really like that Annie addresses is that we have to take accountability for our role in this, because what we seek is seeking us. While I understand that everybody's algorithm works differently, your algorithm is a reflection of you, what you're watching. This is why when people are like, I don't want to see this, I don't know why this video is showing up on my For You page. Yes, something will show up if it is incredibly super duper viral, but also it is likely showing up because it is something that you are interacting with, or different types of content you are interacting with. And so we have to take accountability for the fact that some of us are not as, back in 2021, when there was all of this energy for Black-owned businesses, small businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, back when people used to pretend to care about diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation, people were riding that wave. A lot more people were interested in supporting Black-owned businesses when it was the cool thing to do, when it was the trending thing to do, when everybody could use it to virtue signal that they were safe people. But now that we have passed that time and now we are sliding back to a time where we are leaning heavily on nationalism and fascism, moving towards fascism, and people Black fatigue, people taking a very real term and weaponizing it against Black people, saying that they're tired of the diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation. They're tired of equality. Think about how crazy that sounds. I am tired of equality. I am tired of the most qualified person for a job, a position, or a role being considered. Because that's what people are saying essentially when they talk about how they are tired of diversity. That is literally what they're saying. And in an age, in an era where we are sliding back to nationalism and white supremacy is being platformed in every field, in every industry, in every space, including the highest office in the land, in the free world, we need to be very mindful and intentional about what we are taking in and what we are seeking and supporting. So it is really unfortunate that Ami Colé is closing down. I wish Diarrha the best. It's just really devastating because it is a great product. It is a great brand. It almost feels like you're taking one step forward and two steps back. And with Target, the boycotts, with them pulling out their diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation measures, or at the very least scaling them back and reframing them, that is something that has hurt a lot of Black-owned businesses. And now some of these businesses and brands, they're getting a lot of backlash from their audiences about why they're still in Target. But I don't think a lot of people understand what is involved, how challenging it is as a small business, as a woman-owned business, as a Black woman-owned business to even get any level of funding. And then you're in a national chain like Target, or you're in a national chain like Sephora, and you're doing your best. Diarrha talks about this in the article, how some months they would be struggling to keep up with the demand and products. And then other months they're sitting on all of this products, wondering how they're going to offload it. It is very challenging as a Black woman to even get your brand off of the ground, to see people say, oh, I didn't know it existed. She should, talking about all the ways in which she could have done better and all the things she did wrong. I think we need to take accountability for ourselves, that if Black-owned businesses are important to you, this is not something that is just exclusive to her. There are a lot of Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs who come online and talk about how hard it is to get support from their own communities. Meanwhile, we simultaneously say we want representation, we want businesses, we want to succeed, we want equal opportunities at success. But then we will turn around and not support each other. And whether it is a lack of knowledge, I don't even think a lack of knowledge, like I said, and like Annie said in her video, it is not an excuse. Like I said, you seek what is seeking you. And we really have to be better about showing up and supporting what is important to us. It is really unfortunate to see this brand closing. I wish Diarrha nothing but the best. And if you do not want to see another woman-owned business, another Black-owned business, another small business, another veteran-owned business, if you don't want to see any of more of these businesses closing, please do your part to support them, because there is no reason other than prejudice and lack of opportunity, lack of funding, lack of equity, lack of just equality in opportunity that makes it so. We have Rhodes is successful. Selena Gomez's line is successful. Other brands that are offering the same products are successful. Callie Gray is another newer line that I've been seeing take off. There is no reason why those businesses aren't successful, but you have Ami Colé that is offering you the same product, if not better, and is more diverse, and the business is closing because people just don't know it exists. Seek out what is important to you, because ignorance is no longer an excuse. And it's really just as simple as that. If it is something that is important to you, you will seek out that knowledge, you will seek out that information. It's just that simple. Thanks for watching the video. Drop down in the comments. I really want to know your thoughts. I'm genuinely concerned about all of these anti-diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation measures are going to have. I'm really concerned about what it will mean for not just the beauty space, not just the lifestyle space, but all industries. I'm genuinely concerned. And so if there is a small business you love, please support them. If there's a veteran owned business you love, support them. A minority owned business, a woman owned business, a Black owned business, a Black women owned business, support, 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 because those businesses are going to need your assistance, your help now more than ever. Jot down in the comments, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, please and thank you. And until next time, peace out.